Welcome to the X Corner. I'm here to add a little mutation to that superhero crew. I'll be covering the X comics for the week of August 29th, 2018. This week we have 3 comics: Hunt for Wolverine Dead Ends number 1, X-23 number 3, and X-Men Blue number 34. Spoilers, of course. We'll start with Hunt for Wolverine Dead Ends number 1, written by Charles Soule and the art by Raymond Rosanes. We have finally gotten to the finale of the Hunt for Wolverine series. Sort of. We start with a bunch of kids being abducted, and then go to Daredevil and Iron Man meeting Kitty at the X-Mansion to discuss what all the teams have found. There's a series of recaps as they retell what went on during all the Hunt for Wolverine minis. So Kitty's team discovered that a group was sending a bunch of stuff into space for some reason. Tony's discovered a DNA database of everyone on Earth. Daredevil found Wolverine, and he was working for some evil group. And then Sabretooth let Kitty know about the zombie experiments. It turns out it was all the same group called SuperHeroCrew. Before the group can decide what to do next, there is an alert. Something is coming down from space. Iron Man flies up and is joined by Storm and Firestar to stop the kinetic bombs that had been launched at the mansion. There are 4, and if they hit, it'll be like a nuke went off. The 3 heroes deal with 1 each, but the 4th is about to hit. Kitty, in a show of power unheard of, phases the Earth so that the bomb goes through into the mantle instead of impacting on the surface. All this was a distraction though, as a weird guy shows up with a bunch of dead bodies. A hologram of the mastermind behind it all is then projected to do the evil villainous monologue shtick. Her name is Persephone, and she's behind the SuperHeroCrew. She has the DNA database, and pretty much threatens the X-Men by saying that she'll kill more potential mutants, like the dead kids there, if they don't back off. We then go to her lair, as she takes off her mask and continues to monologue, this time to the strung-up Wolverine. So we get a lot of answers here, and a lot of dots are connected. Having read all the miniseries, this one had a lot of recap, and pretty much this is all you need to read. I do like how they showed Psylocke in her old form being a bit shell-shocked, and how Cypher is being helped by the X-Men, and helping by connecting the dots there. We also get a glimpse of those hot claws that Wolverine has now, that everyone is flipping out about. I think it's all a bunch of overreaction. I doubt he's keeping them, and I'm sure we'll get an explanation. This series is still continued though. Return of Wolverine number 1 is coming out to keep that cash train rolling. For this issue though, I'd say it was a 7 out of 10. The art was good and the story was well told, but mostly it was a recap, with one big set piece to introduce the new villain. Then there's X-23 number 3, written by Mariko Tamaki and art by Juan Cabal. Starting where we left off, Gabby has been kidnapped by the Cuckoos and Laura is chasing their van. She eventually catches up to it, but it's the wrong van. Laura finds out that the Cuckoos plan to map their dying sister onto Gabby to stabilize her DNA. Needless to say, that wouldn't be good for Gabby. Gabby wakes up and activates her tracking gizmo, and Laura rushes to her aid. Laura calls her ex for a ride, and Angel drops her on the Cuckoo's evil base. She falls right in a window just as the Cuckoos activate their transference machine. The story here was okay, if not a bit cliched, but the art is where the comic shined. The scene where Laura jumps from car to car to stop what she thinks is the Cuckoo's van was great, culminating with a page with an epic schnicked on it. Juan Cabal also did some interesting stuff with panels, like when Laura discovers that it's the wrong van, spliced with one of the Cuckoos opening the van to reveal Gabby. The writing was pretty good on second thought, at least in the characterization. Drugged Gabby was fun, as she didn't know what was going on, but still rambled on. Also, the face work of the other Cuckoos, who weren't so sure about what they were doing, was class. The plot may be a bit cliched, but I'm liking everything else. I'm actually going to give it an 8. It was way better than I expected. Then we have X-Men Blue 34, written by Cullen Bunn, art by Marcus Toe. Magneto is in the future facing off against the X-Men. He tries to talk to resolve the situation. The X-Men claim he's a monster, but the survivors defend him, saying he saved them, not the X-Men. Turns out the X-Men killed the future Magneto, and they intend to do the same to this one to stop him from going back in time. They attack and Magneto defends himself, but the X-Men are winning. Until one of the survivor kids knocks out Beast, allowing Magneto to time travel back to the present. Magneto then goes back to the company who's making the cyborgs that will eventually lead to the future Reaver virus, and razes it to the ground, killing everyone. He then goes to Asteroid M to reform the Brotherhood. So I'm not sure how I'm supposed to read this comic. I've always believed in the mantra Magneto was right, and maybe that influenced my reading of this comic. Was I supposed to side with the future X-Men because they seem pretty evil and wrong? Magneto did save the world, at least what was left of it. He was also right the X-Men should have returned to their own time. His actions, while extreme, are effective and most likely stopped that future from happening by killing those responsible, even if they themselves weren't doing it on purpose. I guess the ends do justify the means for me. This comic ends up being a psychological test. I think Magneto is reforming the Brotherhood not in his evil organization, but as a means to temper the X-Men so that they will be strong enough for what comes, and also to do the things that must be done. I hope this new Brotherhood will be a spiritual successor to the Brotherhood series back in the early 2000s. We'll see if everyone who writes this new Brotherhood gets the memo, though. I remember a time when a morally grey Magneto, who was just trying to do what was right for the mutants, was written as a megalomaniac supervillain in comics not written by Chris Claremont back in the day. Hopefully, A, I'm reading this correctly, and that Magneto didn't just turn evil all of a sudden, and B, that Marvel has good enough editors and character bibles that future writers, at least, add some nuance to Magneto's reason for doing things. We'll see, I guess. If I am reading this comic correctly, I give it 8.5 out of 10 for the character development. But if he just turned evil for no reason, it's a 2. Please let me be reading this correctly. I don't want it to be just some stupid villain turn. So that's another week done. We'll have separate videos for Extermination number 2, the New Mutants Dead Souls miniseries, and the X-Men Grand Design Second Genesis issues. It's been a good summer of X-Men, the best I can remember in a long time. I hope that continues, and I believe it will for a bit. The weekly Uncanny X-Men series, and the fact that it seems most of the Wolverine returning stuff will be in the Avengers, has me a little concerned. But unlike Magneto, I can't change the future, so I'll just have to take it as it comes. See you next week.